Hello students, welcome to Al Noor International School Virtual Learning. In this episode, we will cover Chapter 8, Review and Assessment Questions. So let's see the learning objectives. Here are the objectives. Explain the main points of the chapter and solve the assessment questions that are given under each lesson. Students, you can find Chapter 8 Review and Assessment questions on your textbook pages 244 to 247. Okay, let us start with the lesson summary of Chapter 8 Lesson 1. So, here are the main points of Chapter 8 Lesson 1. Adenosine triphosphate is a chemical compound that cells use to store and release energy. An ATP molecule consists of adenine, the sugar ribose, and 3 phosphate groups. So cells store energy by adding a phosphate group to adenosine diphosphate or ADP molecule. On the other hand, cells release energy from ATP molecules by subtracting a phosphate group. Well, now let's see what heterotrophs and autotrophs are. Heterotrophs are organisms that get their food by consuming or eating other organisms. And autotrophs use the energy in sunlight to make their own food. Energy provided by ATP is used in active transport to contract muscles, to make proteins, and in many other ways. Cells contain only a small amount of ATP at any one time. They regenerate it from ADP as they need it, using energy stored in food. Well, now let's see the lesson summary of Chapter 8, Lesson 2. Photosynthesis occurs in organelles called chloroplasts, and chloroplasts house light-absorbing chemicals. Light is a form of energy. Sunlight is a mixture of all the different colors of visible light. Light-absorbing molecules called pigments capture the sun's energy. Chlorophyll is the principal pigment in photosynthetic organisms. Chlorophyll absorbs blue, violet, and red lights but reflects green light. Chloroplasts have a complex internal structure that includes thylakoids, sac-like photosynthetic membranes that contain chlorophyll and other pigments and are arranged in stalks called grana. Stroma is the fluid portion outside the thylakoids. So, high energy electrons. The energy in light raises some of the electrons in chlorophyll to higher energy levels. These high energy electrons are used in photosynthesis. Electron carriers are used to transport the electrons from chlorophyll to other molecules during photosynthesis. NADP plus is a compound that can accept and hold 2 high energy electrons and 1 hydrogen ion. This process converts NADP into NADPH. So the light-dependent reactions require light-absorbing pigments and water to form NADPH, ATP, and oxygen. The light-independent reactions do not use light energy. They use carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, NADPH, and ATP to make energy-rich carbon compounds. Now let's see the lesson summary of Chapter 8, Lesson 3. First, let's see the light-dependent reactions that generate ATP and NADPH. Photosynthesis begins with these reactions, which occur in thylakoid membranes. And photosystems are clusters of proteins and chlorophyll in thylakoid membranes. High energy electrons form when pigments in photosystem to absorb light. So the electrons pass through electron transport chains, a series of electron carrier proteins. The movement of electrons through an electron transport chain causes a thylakoid to fill up with hydrogen ions and generate ATP and NADPH. ATP synthase is a membrane protein through which excess hydrogen ions escape a thylakoid in a process that makes ATP. The light-independent reactions produce sugar. They occur in the stroma of thylakoid and are commonly called the Calvin cycle. In the Calvin cycle, 6 carbon dioxide molecules from the atmosphere enter the Calvin cycle and combine with 5 carbon compounds already present. They produce 12 free carbon molecules. 2 free carbon molecules are removed from the cycle. They are used by the plant to build sugars, lipids, amino acids, and other compounds. The remaining 10 free carbon molecules are converted back to 5 carbon molecules and begin a new cycle. Now let's see the factors that affect photosynthesis. Many factors influence the rate of photosynthesis. Temperature, light intensity, and availability of water affect photosynthesis. C4 and CAM plants have a modified type of photosynthesis that enables the plants to conserve water in dry climate. Now let's see some assessment questions. Let's try the first question from chapter 8, lesson 1. How do heterotrophs and autotrophs differ in the way they obtain energy? Try this question. Well done. Heterotrophs obtain energy by consuming other organisms, and autotrophs obtain energy by consuming the food they make. Another question from chapter 8, lesson 1. Describe the 3 parts of an ATP molecule. Can you try this? Hope you answered it. So the answer is an ATP molecule consists of a nitrogen containing compound called adenine, a 5 carbon sugar called ribose, and 3 phosphate groups. The third question from chapter 8, lesson 1. Compare the amounts of energy stored by ATP and glucose. Which compound is used by the cell as an immediate source of energy? So, a single molecule of glucose stores more than 90 times the energy stored by ATP. ATP, though, transfers energy quickly and is used by the cell as an immediate source of energy. Now let's proceed to chapter 8, lesson 2, assessment questions. Let's answer this. Write the basic equation for photosynthesis using the names of the starting and final substance of the process. Take your time. Well done. So carbon dioxide plus water gives or yields sugars plus oxygen. This process happens in the presence of light. Another question from chapter 8, lesson 2. What role do plant pigments play in the process of photosynthesis? So what is the role of pigments? So plant pigments absorb sunlight, the energy source for photosynthesis. Now let's see some chapter assessment questions from chapter 8, lesson 3. Explain the role of NADP plus as an energy carrier in photosynthesis? Take your time. So the answer is NADP plus molecules pick up high energy electrons along with hydrogen ions in the light dependent reactions to become NADPH. This NADPH is used in the light independent reactions to produce high energy sugars. Let's see the next question from chapter 8 lesson 3. Describe the role of ATP synthase and explain how it works. Well, let's see the answer. ATP synthase is a protein that spans the thylakoid membrane and allows hydrogen ions to pass through. As hydrogen ions from the thylakoid space pass through the ATP synthase and into the stroma, the ATP synthase molecule rotates and the energy produced is used to convert ADP to ATP. Let's see the next question from chapter 8 lesson 3. Summarize the events of the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle uses 6 molecules of carbon dioxide to produce a single 6-carbon sugar molecule. The energy for the reactions that make this possible is supplied by ATP and NADPH, which are produced in the light-dependent reactions. The Calvin cycle works steadily, removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and turning out energy-rich sugars. Now let us go to the last question. It says, discuss 3 factors that affect the rate at which photosynthesis occurs. Here is the possible answer. Because the enzymes that make photosynthesis possible work best between 0 degrees Celsius and 35 degrees Celsius, temperatures above or below this range may slow down the rate of photosynthesis. High light intensity increases the rate of photosynthesis, though after the light intensity reaches a certain level, the plant reaches its maximum rate. A shortage of water can slow or even stop photosynthesis.